horrible things are going to happen! And they're going to happen to you, and you, and you, and you! Oh, Nelly!
Dad, do something!
This book doesn't have any answers! Beware! Beware! Time is short! EPA! 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 Believe me! Believe me!
That's right, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the dreaded EPA. Hey, this is your buddy the Dashboard. And today we're going to be talking about the new proposal from EPA to make 60% of new cars available in 2032 be electric vehicles. Now, I'm going to talk about this from the common man's perspective. And just to be clear, for all you listening, I'm not against electric vehicles. I like them. I like the idea. But I think the transition to electric vehicles needs to be a little bit more organic than a mandate from the EPA. Now, there are several problems I have, and most common people have, with switching to electric vehicles. The first problem you run into is the cost. Now, there are a couple of budget options, but they're the size of a matchbox, and they're still expensive. And the ones that are normal size for normal people, well, they're a good bit more expensive than their gasoline counterparts. So, cost is a big one. You know, and it's not just the cost of the vehicle itself you got to think about. You got to think about the cost of replacing that battery if you keep the vehicle for a period of time, long period of time. Because I don't know about most people, but when I buy a car, I tend to pay it off and keep it for a long time. In fact, my current vehicle just turned 10 years old. That gives you an idea how long I tend to keep things. Now, the second problem is everybody wants to cite the environmental impact. Oh, they're environmentally friendly to switch to EVs or electric vehicles. If you know anything about mining, you know it's not necessarily the fact. Okay? Because you got to dig up the materials to make the batteries somewhere. And mines don't run on electric vehicles. They run on diesel heavy equipment. So, that's one of those, yeah, they can say they're environmentally friendly all they want. But you got to have diesel to dig up the fuel, the battery components, the elements for the batteries. And then you got to have that shipped somewhere to process and make the battery. And then you got to have that battery shipped to where they're building the car. And you got to have that car shipped here. So, all those points in the chain to get that battery to that electric car and that electric car to you, all use fossil fuels. So you're using 5 and 6 times the fossil fuel to build that electric car than it costs to build a fossil fuel vehicle. That's just thinking logically here. Now, like I said, I'm not against electric vehicles, but they got to find some way to make them more efficient in their environmental impact. Less links in the chain. The third problem that most of us common people have with electric vehicles is their range on battery, on one charge. Because, you got to think about it. Yeah, that car may say it'll go 300 miles on a single charge. But you have to half that for round trip. If you're going somewhere and there's no charging stations, you have to figure, okay, I can only go 150 miles, say, on a 300-mile range, before I have to go back. Because I know where I'm at, there's not a lot of electric vehicle charging stations around. In fact, you have to go 30 minutes before you can find one. It's probably about 25 miles. So, not exactly friendly for the common man to have to drive 20 miles out of his way to get to a charging station. It's almost like they want to keep you within a 150-mile radius of your home with these electric vehicles. Of course, that's a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying that's a fact. I'm just saying it's, something to ponder over. Now, problem number 4, I already alluded to a little bit in problem number 1. Now, this one's battery replacement. They don't give you a good estimate of how long the battery in these electric vehicles is going to last, as far as charging cycles, because it varies. But they do kind of tell you to plan to replace the battery within 5 years. And I don't know about you, but that's before most vehicles get paid off nowadays when they give you the 7-year financing. So you kind of need to figure that into your purchase price. Or maybe the dealerships and the car manufacturers need to include that in your financing. Okay, you're financing the car for 7 years. We need to add X amount on for a battery replacement for later on down the line when you inevitably need to change the battery. Or you change the battery when you pay the car off and you got that much more before you have to trade the car in. Don't know. Something to think about. If you're listening to auto manufacturers, think about it. Now, the 6th problem that we run into with these electric cars is horrible
things are going to happen! And they're going to happen to you!
Like I said, the battery life on them. The life of the actual battery itself. I already went over that. Oh, sorry. Problem number 6 was availability of electric vehicles. Now, moving on to 2032, it should be more plentiful. But you got to stop and think about what happened in 2022 when fuel prices rocketed up. Everybody had to have an electric car. I got to have an electric car. I got to have it. You couldn't find one. And when you did, the price was astronomical because they were charging market adjustments based on demand. I don't know about you, but if the sticker price says $32,000, that's what I'm paying for the car. I'm not going to pay $60,000 and have a $28,000 markup because the market says they can charge that much. Anyway, in conclusion, if you're like me and you're the common man and you like to keep your vehicles for a long time, you're probably not going to switch to electric because there's just too many problems that they have not solved yet. I stress that yet. So, in conclusion, they got a lot of problems to work on. They need to work on them. I don't think that the EPA needs to be forcing people or forcing manufacturers to move to electric vehicles by 2032, or 60% of their output be electric vehicles by 2032. There's too much work that they need to do to make these electric vehicles more viable.